Hello. Yes, I've played a lot of Set 5, and I've got a video on it, and I'm going to do it in this new format. I'm just going to mention first where I saw a tweet online saying that they got kind of a bit bored of just looking at a guy with a webcam and having to watch a Dreamboard screenshot whilst they do the video. So I thought I'd try to do it in this format. It's very much thrown together. I'm really trying something out here. If it sucks, just it sucks, and I'll move on and never do it again. But I thought it might be good to try, so I set up a way where I can do this physically and go through the cards in my deck, which is quite fun. So yeah, I've managed to play quite a lot of set five now, quite a few sets, quite a few games. Sorry, locally, online, tested different sort of methods. I'm very fortunate to get to play Americans, Germans, French, anyone in Europe. Get to play different sorts of metas, see what's going to be everyone's cooking up, and we get to brought this to win a box today. I managed to win a box of it, so I'm feeling fairly confident with it. A lot of the practice that I've done has gone into the Steel Song matchup because that just seems to be the boogeyman of the set. So that's the one you really want to focus in on. And for a while, it was looking like we really just weren't going to have any answers to that matchup. But I've sort of approached it in a different way. I've approached it of right, okay, I just can't win that early fight with Daisy and a two drop that can sing, or Cindy or Cindy or an Ursula that can sing. So instead, I'm just going to ramp. I'm just going to play bigger threats. And I've got a few cards that I'm going to mention that I've learned from the sort of the games I've been playing recently, and where I sort of stand with the list and what I want to test and want to add in as well. But yeah, going through the list of what did well for me today to win me prizes. We'll go through Popsicle and the Fortispheres, of course. The sort of bread and butter of your draw engine. I will mention with these cards, at the end of each turn, if you haven't got a Hiram to put one of these into your discard pile for your retrieval from, um, what's it called? The Tamatoa, what I would do is think, is there a appropriate use for the Popsicle or the Fortisphere? And if you're expecting just a draw from Hiram, don't use them either. But there is lots of ways you can naturally get these into your discard pile without using the Hiram as well. I just think that's worth mentioning, worth thinking about, because sometimes you're going to get to a late game where you just pop a Popsicle to put it into your discard, and you're just doing that so Tamatoa can pick it up again. Whereas maybe there was a turn where you could have healed for two or or bodyguarded something, and that could have really impacted your game. So just at the end of each turn, if you've got the items there, don't just think they're items for Hiram to pop or things to buff my Tamatoa. Think they are actually something that has a value to it. So yeah, it's just something to mention. I've been really sort of thinking about that, trying to maximize every value of each card in this deck, because they're just going to have to be staples as well because of the Hiram draw. Well, I would say that like a bad thing, but they are. Notice how bad foils come up on camera. Loving that. So you're going to see these sort of dark-looking cards. Next we've got Fire the Cannons. Yeah, three of them. It's just there's so much cheap stuff to sort of ping. It's sort of almost necessary, I think, at this point. I think they're a necessary evil. They are great, I think great value. I mean, for one ink, you get to do two damage to anything, so you get to stop shift lines, you get to do maths to add up to kill a daisy or something like that. That's all good. I will admit though, cheap damage cards like this in blue steel, it doesn't always, I don't always enjoy it because of hand economy, and especially as I'll get to the card in a second, we're swapped to playing Tipo. Having smaller hand sizes is quite bad, and a lot of the time I'm ending up just Tippoing one of these because the ramp is more important than putting two damage on something and killing it. As I say, I've gone more towards dealing with Daisy, which is the boogeyman of the set, more than Steel Song is. What I've ended up doing is just ramping into an answer for it. So Tinkerbell hit and then do two damage somewhere. It just feels better than run something in, fire the cannons. They get some lore, but a lot of the Steel Song lists aren't built around flutes anymore. So the lore they have on the board is the only lore they're getting. So if you win the board, you win the game in a sense. And then you can just control it from there and close out with just your questers and your dimes and stuff and your actual win cons. But yeah, three is in there. They feel necessary evils. There's a world where I could want to go less. You basically only want to play it on the draw as well. I find because on the play you can just ramp and high roll them. But yeah, just in the card. I don't need to really oversell cheap damage in a meta where a lot of the characters that are good right now are cheap. And next we go to Hook. Hook's been really underperforming for me in my opinion. I do not love this card too much. Into Hyper Aggro, yeah, of course, you play it turn one, on the play, on the draw, turn one. He's out there and he does work. Um, and in that deck, they never really fight back, so it's unlikely they're going to want to trade and kill it after it hits. So yeah, he's got some plans there. I'm not seeing as much hyper aggro. I've even got a prediction that it just won't translate very well into competitive high level play. I think a best of two, it's going to struggle quite a bit. So maybe people are trying it right now because it's new and fun, but actually overall, I do not think Hook is an amazing card. And there's cards I want to swap out for it. Actually, I'm just going to show that now rather than do it at the end. But I will circle back on my ideas. Is I want to swap out for Atala. She's not really centering, right? Is she? She's not really focusing, right? So you can see her. Yeah, but I quite like Tala right now. I think because just basically, besides Smee, we don't really have another good one drop, so another good early drop, sorry. But we do have Tipo, so what we can do is we can just Tipo ramp into better things, I think, in my opinion. So yeah, I definitely just think Hook's probably seen his day really. So I'm probably gonna have to now cutting him. Yeah, and the play what we did a lot of the time with the Tipos was we realized that we couldn't like really win early game. If we put a Hook and a Smee down and they enter Steel Song, sorry, and they play like a Daisy and a Ursula or a Daisy and a Cinderella or something like that, they're just going to remove it. They're just going to play removal songs. They've got Strength, Let the Storm Rage on. They can even Zeus from an Ursula. So whatever you play, there is nothing that will is actually going to possibly stick. I mean, even online, if you've seen my testing, I went to try Prince Eric just because it was a 1/3 and it attacked for attacked for three, sorry. So I just felt that might be a strong choice, but it just never came out. I mean, even I had games where people were Zeusing it just so the Daisy could get more attacks in. So instead, what I want to do is play a character. It's not a very strong character. It's a 1/2, but it does guarantee ramp. So we get some value locked in there, and then from there we can ramp to bigger things, bigger answers, and it ended up performing a lot better. Going Porp or one drop item into Tipo into a 4 cost like Hiram is the only one we have right now, but that's why I'm thinking Tala is very good again in this deck because we can run OGA lines, one jump ahead lines, and utilize these. Play into a 4 cost, get the value for the 4 cost. So if it's Hiram, you get the draw. From Tala, it would be the scrying. By the way, I keep mentioning Tala. I don't actually have her in the deck yet. I didn't play her today. I just think she's really good. Um, yeah, you get the draw from Hiram, and then you've got a thing that can sing Zeus, and then from there you can play a 5 cost thing, and just from the value of you playing bigger stuff, you should outvalue the Steel Song player eventually, especially as they're like what turn 2 or 3, yeah, they'll be turn 3 playing Aerials hoping it will dry or whatever. You know, they're not gonna be able to steamroll you as much, and you're just gonna get bigger things out on the board and end up winning for them. So yeah, I think Tippo's been really good. I can see a world where I drop Tipo though, just because he's utilized those OGA lines right now is good. But if Discard became strong again, I don't seem to play against a lot of Lemon Lime. I know it's popular and I know it's big, but I just don't seem to play against it enough, so it hasn't bothered me. The new what's it called? Green Steel seems to be more based on bouncing, and a lot of their cards actually give you card draw, so they can utilize their Clarabelle card, which is where they draw based on how many cards you have in hand. So yeah, I do not think I'm worried too much about this card right now as of recent. But if it ever came back, I would look at using Mickey again, just because it reserves hand size. You still get your ramp, and yeah, you can just yeah, I just think that might be a better option, just basically to reserve hand size. Yeah, go to Smee. There seems to only be 3 Smees. Oh, there's another Smee. 4 Smees, of course, because Smee is just a goated card. You play it, it's going to sit there, it's going to quest, it's going to trade, it's going to do loads of things. Most times it might even just soak up removal. So yeah, on turn 2 we want to be tippoing, Smeeing, and those will also tell us what lines we're going to be playing that game. You know, if we Tipo, we're going to be playing a 4 cost next turn. If we Smee, that means we're going to be having to ramp the next turn with a card like Quill. Because yeah, that's just how the deck's going to have to work for us. Because we're going to have to hit those ramp on turn 2 or turn 3. We're just going to have to get it because that's what our deck does and that's what it does well. And I'm finding with versus Steel Song, we just can't beat that early game. So what we want to do is just play the value of our deck and hopefully just outvalue them in that aspect. Yep, for Quills, do I need to advertise this card even more than it is? It's the best ramp card in the game. Put a card in your Inkwell, get to play the ink for that turn as well. Amazing. We've got 2 Zeuses. Along came Zeus. I really would want to go to 3, to be honest with you, and especially if we're using Grandma Tala. Grandma Talas, so it would have like, depending on how many I play it in there, 2 or 3 Grandma Talas, you know, we would have 6 or 7 chances to get a turn 4 character down on turn 3, and then it can sing Zeus for us to clear even more stuff, and then we get to play more things on top of that. let's play 5 and then 6, and we just get to ramp from there. This might remind people of the sort of Savich builds that he had, where he was like, I think he even 4x Long Came Zeus, because that was that one jump ahead lines where you just got to play bigger stuff earlier on. But that also, I think, because I'm so used to being a Mickey build player, I'm gonna have to actually change the deck around to utilize that turn 4 um, value on turn 3. But this is sort of just all how I'm ending up playing it, and how much Tipo is sort of changing the game for me a bit. Yeah, so 2 is good. I think I would want to include more. Bell is great. I mean, a lot of the weirdly, right? I even had these lines where it was like Port Tipo Bell, Bell double ink or whatever. I think I could double ink, and then no, I don't think I could. Remember getting a Bell and a Smee down on the same turn, and I think there was a whole new world involved. But yeah, against Steel Song, it was just basically more stuff to soak up their removal, and if it doesn't, it can sit on the board and do things. At one point, it was just Cogsworth, 2 bells down, and I said, I'm going to get. I had a dime as well. And I said, I'm going to get 15 law this turn. So no matter how quick Daisy is, no matter how quick your cards are, my cards are going to be quicker for you. And that's just sort of the weird plays you've got to seem to do right now versus Steel Song. I'm going to keep mentioning Steel Song because all the other decks, they feel like you play exactly like you did in set 4. RP dropped Flynn, so we don't seem to nearly bother with Flynn as much anymore. But all the other decks, it just feels like you play it the same you did in set 4. It's just Steel Song with the Daisy. Hyper aggro, but as I said, I'm not that bothered by hyper aggro, so I'm just not going to um, mention it as much, really. For Hiram's, of course, I love Hiram. I've got 2 of them for you, it seems. Hiram's great card, best draw card in the game. It's one of the reasons why I kind of got a bit worried that um, uh, Blue Steel wasn't going to be that good of a deck, but then it's just like, hold on a minute, we have like Hiram and stuff, and we have these amazing draw cards. We have amazing value cards, like when it's not going to fall off that hard. So yeah, I'm just so grateful I had the card. And as I say, you can do the Porp, Tipo, Hiram. Hiram's probably is very good to play on the 4 as well because it is a 1/6, so it's not going to fight like a Tala would. But what it is doing is replenishing your hand, especially as that turn 2. If you ink play Tipo, ink the card from the tipper, you lose 3 cards in hand, so this starts getting those cards back for you. So you can recover from that early hyper ramp quite early on. So yeah, keep it at 4. Best draw engine in the game. Better than bounce. Come at me. 3, grab your swords. I don't know if there's a word where you go 4. I always feel healthy with 3. It's very upsetting if you get one wheeled out of your hands or bottom decked by a Daisy or grabbed from an Ursula or whatever. But it just, yeah, it's for me, 3 is fine. 4 would always feel overkill. And there's a lot of matchups right now where I just don't need it, I think. Into red blue, you just never need it. Into red purple, you can use it. I think it's pretty good into red purple, actually. But overall, I think 3 is just fine. It's just a healthy number, especially for a removal card that does 2 damage to characters across the board. So we keep that at 3. We have 2 Let It Goes. One's foil. Wee. I think it's probably my favourite foil in the game, actually. So yeah, 2 Let It Goes, just because if you ever go against a Sapphire deck, you need this for the towers. Especially as those people hyping Mufasa, which I'll admit, I have one sat right here, Mufasa. If people are hyping up Mufasa, it's just like they'll ramp into a play to it. You just let it go. They might go 11 ink and Pete, but if you're battling at 11 ink still, you should hopefully be closing out the game if all they've been doing is ramping. So yeah, I'm gonna put Fassa down, but I only bring him out because I think he's actually a card I might try tomorrow. As much as I complain about the card, I want to have some hard evidence I don't like the card or I like the card. But yeah, 2 Let It Goes. It's strange as well. Sometimes it might just be that you want something on the board to just be removed. And I've had games where it's like even just a queen or a Robin Hood, they get 2 ramp from it, but it's like, hey, if that's on the board, they win. So it just needs to be deleted. And because steel removal can't delete everything in the game, it's just 2 cards to have that are quite useful. It's singable, you know, it's inkable. It's just decent at 2, and 2 seems to be the number a lot of people has landed on as the minimum. I think in a hyper sapphire meta, you'd probably want to go to 3. But right now, it doesn't seem Sapphire's being played as much, but I think it's still probably the strongest color in the game. I just don't think it's being played as much, really. I think Ruby Sapphire will come back quite strong, so we might have to bring back the old mirror and go to 3, let it goes. But yeah, 2 feels fine. Like I say, spot removal. There's something on the board you don't like. Big Cindy as well. You just take it out. We have 4 Holy Worlds. Mine are German. It's not really an interesting story. A local of ours bought some to play with her partner. and they accidentally got them in German, so I swapped my playset for theirs because I thought it'd be cool to trick the deck out with German ones. But yeah, okay, it's still whole new world. Yeah, we are on the wheel list. I guess mentioning that. Um, yeah, it's just I think right now of wheel, there's been so many times where it's just been, and I need that card to win the game. So giving yourself 7 card draw lets you achieve that. There's so many times where it's and I have a dime and I win. So just getting 7 card draw for a singable value is just amazing, I think. So I'm just definitely keeping with the 4 whole new worlds right now. Yeah, Ruby Amethyst doesn't seem as popular right now, but still, even in that, it was almost a requirement to win that matchup. If they know you don't have wheel, sometimes they'll play into it and just play their hand out, and then you go, ha, no wheel, I'll win. But the majority of the time, the wheel will be the reason that you win that matchup. So for me, I'm just keeping the wheel for now. And I've just learned to play with it. I learned a lot of my lines through wheel, ramp into wheel, especially with Tipo and like the fact that all of our ramps coming from our hand now. Just being able to replenish it as much makes us such a better ramp deck than uh what's it called? Sorry, red blue is because we can just dump our hand, ramp it if we want, and that's sort of how I've been winning against with quite a few of the decks. So like Steel Song, like I say, I'm gonna keep mentioning Steel Song. I'm just over prioritizing ramp over anything because in my mind at one point one of us is gonna want a wheel. You'll find with Steel Song decks because what they do a lot of the time is they have to sing songs, play cheap characters, ink, flood the board. They only other card draw really is Rapunzel. Ariel's not a reliable card draw, and even then you bottom deck a bunch of cards, and you get 1 card. So they're just going to thin their hand out. So at some point they're going to have to wheel. So yeah, I just find it very strong in this meta right now. I'm sticking with it. I think there's still loads of benefits to no wheel, but I think the wheel version right now is great. It also just like loads of little things. I think Whole New World utilizes Blue Steel to have a form of discard. So if someone's got a card in their hand and you don't want them to have a card in their hand, wheel. A lot of the times it's not even just against red Ruby Amethyst. It's like against even Blurple when I've had it, it's like they've got a goat and they win the game if they goat. So our whole new world, just so they don't have, there's a chance they won't have a goat in their hand. So yeah, I just like it. It utilizes the deck so much. It gives you so many more interesting lines. You can just outvalue and outramp people and play bigger stuff. So yeah, whole new world. I mean, I've done videos on it. I can talk about it for ages. Oh, the glare. For Cogsworths, yeah, in a still meta. I mean, sometimes I was just winning from the fact that against Steel Song I have recently, where I just play my hand out, um, and sorry, I ramp as soon as I can, so I get that Tipo down, I get whatever. I just play a Cogsworth because once he's established on the board, he's established, and everything is going to benefit from him. So it's a real tempo swing to have a Cogsworth set up, in my opinion. It's that good. Let's bring up to the camera. Does that center a bit more? Yeah. No, it doesn't. Oh, it's not. It's going to be all fuzzy for the entire video. Oh well. We'll see how good this goes. Yeah, I think 4 Cogsworth is definitely just the way it goes right now, especially in the steel meta. I even played against Ruby Steel Amethyst today, and it's just the fact that you get this down and they're instantly going to be playing from such a disadvantage for the rest of the game. So yeah, 4 of them definitely has to go on the deck. I think he's so good. At the worst, yeah, people are playing Big Sisu, but just ink it in those matchups or get the sing value from him, and then you don't really care what he dies anyway, because he's gonna die from like a Maui or something. So just yeah, you know what I mean. You just need him to sing, and then he's lost his value. No, then he's done his purpose really. He's not lost his value. He's done his job. 2 Tragic Beasts. Don't be afraid of Medusa. Don't be afraid of Steel hitting it for damage. If a steel player. Okay, Medusa. That's painful. So what you want to try and do is get him set up before Medusa range. If a steel player though is just going to throw sort of chip damage, like a Let the Storm Rage on a strength or whatever, onto your Tragic Beast, I'm not going to say it's a win because you'd have preferred the card draw, but that's a really bad play, isn't it? Let's be honest. All they've done is put something that they didn't really want to do. They didn't clear anything. He's still on the board. They're just going to put some damage down to make sure you don't get 1 extra card that turn. So yeah, I think he's still good. And the max value is if they don't deal with him or do anything, he draws you a card. So he's just really good. At 3/5 when he's damaged, he does that in crazy abilities. You can heal him with Porp as well. So even if they want to do like some chip damage onto him, you can just Porp and heal him up. So yeah, I think just 2 right now is great. And the reason why we were playing Hardhead, but we've cut Hardhead Beast, the item breaker card, It's because I need Kuzco. I'm still not sold on which one's better, Simba or Kuzco. I only really prefer this one. I just realized they're both foil, aren't they? Oh, nice. I didn't realize that. Um, I just like this one because it quests for two, and sometimes you're at like top deck mode where it's like I just need to basically put two questers on the board and turn sideways. So that's why I went for him. The four cost resist ability, I was surprised how often I actually use it, especially if you have like Cogsworth set up and then you use this as well. It's so powerful. It does so much for you. That's so much resist across the board. No one's going to touch your board, and then you get to use it the next turn. So yeah, you put him out there. I'll admit though, against Ruby Amethyst, if they do a castle um, before turn seven, sorry. So maybe if they're on turn four or five and they castle, I kind of don't want to use it because I'm gonna if they're on turn five and I use it, it puts them to six ink, and then the next turn they can B prep. So it's not an amazing spot. I usually want to use them after the B preps have been used, if they use a B prep, and of course versus Ruby Amethyst or basically any deck that has an item you just don't want to see on the board. Put it in the Inkwell. I'm realizing the putting in the Inkwell thing isn't actually that beneficial. Blue Steel's quite a fast deck. If you're playing as a Ruby Sapphire deck and they manage to if you destroy their dime and they manage to get a tower out, retrieve the dime, then play the dime again, you're probably going to lose anyway. It doesn't really matter that you hit it in the inkwell, and especially in the mirror is over so quickly, it doesn't really matter either. If they have enough ink to play it, play a tower, retrieve it, and then play the dime and tap it, you are probably going to lose. So the benefit of putting it in the inkwell isn't that great. Weirdly though, I've used it on my own items before. You put it into your own one, and that's like you can just do some crazy plays with how much ramp you can get, and then just keep throwing towers and keep throwing stuff, wheel, keep throwing stuff at them, and you just win on value sometimes. So he even goes back into the value because you can use it on your own character, on your own items. So yeah, I think it's a really powerful card. But as I say, with the Simba, I'm still not completely sold because the Simba just destroys it. He just does something that's kind of valuable, and just yeah. But he only costs for one. And that's sort of where I'm at. You can see where my mind is sort of trying. It can't really decide, but questing for one sucks. I think for Blue Steel, and that's another reason why I don't really play what's it called, GM Pal, just because it quests for one, and if I top deck him, I'm gonna be sad. He's if I top deck him and play him, he'll do nothing. So I just don't really like GM Pal. For Tinkerbell's the goated card of the deck, the best card in the deck. Well, actually, probably my favorite card in Lorcana is Tinkerbell. Insane value. She has on play value. She has a threat that requires you to remove her. Her stats are good. She quests for two. She's inkable. She's shiftable. She's just the whole deal. She's the whole package. I just think four of her. Never a reason to drop her. She's gonna make mid range and aggro decks afraid. She's not bad in the late game. She's not gonna get Medusa'd. She can sing Holy World. She can do the whole thing. She's the real deal. I don't need to talk of how great this card is. If you've ever played a game of Lorcana, you will know how good Tinkerbell is, and especially right now into um, these sort of cheaper decks. I mean, against hyper aggro, I've had games where I've ignored Fire the Cannons or a Smee, and all I've done is just got a Quill and a Tinkerbell at my opening hand and just ramped to her, cleaned up board, played other stuff, and won the game. Played other stuff. That's so basic. Just played other ways to win my win con, other questers, and just win the game from that. She's just that strong, I think. Don't need the shift line. You do not need the shift line. She's cool that she can shift because sometimes you can do Tinkerbell then play another Tinkerbell on top. But to be honest with you, we get ramp. We don't really play shifts in Blue Steel. We're quicker than that with ramp. So yeah, I just think she's really cool, and I recommend everyone play her. Two dimes. I've done this in like ink order, haven't I? Two dimes. I'm still on the dime build. I am quite excited to see people play with no dimes, and I think what's interesting about playing with no dimes is so in your mind it might just be that we get two slots back in the deck. In my opinion, it's we get to do the entire deck over again because we're not building it around dime targets like Bell and Tamatoa and stuff like that. You could still utilize those cards, but because you take the dime out, you take out the reason to have dime targets in the deck, and you can focus all of that on mid-range control or all of that on early aggro control. You could focus that on anything really. I've seen people play with the 4x manas and then like just do a full mid-range control deck. So you just control the board hard and then just play manas to beat like the big red decks. So yeah, but for me, Dime's still in there. It's so weird how many times you win with it. It's an insanely powerful card. I'm keeping with it. I think it utilizes and brings the deck together. But yeah, I'm still interested to see like the no non Dime ones, I mean, the one with Fassa is sort of cool, I guess. You just take Dime out and put Fassas in, and then your win con is play Fassa and maybe a Pete. And if they can't answer it, you win because just the value you're going to get from those turns. But two Dimes, yeah, for sure. Brilliant. And the last three cards of the deck, which is three Tamatoas. We're only on three, so overall that brings us up to five Dime targets with the two bells. But it's just a strong card, and I've noticed a lot of people because they're wanting to win early, they're putting a lot of their removal into early game. I've even seen a lot of the RP just cut Tremaine. He's getting so much more value right now. If you can cheat to six and play a whatever like a Tinkerbell and then cheat another two to eight, I say cheat, sorry, ramp, just ramp to eight and just get him out there. He's really good, and then he's mainly just going to turn sideways and win you the game. But he's a 5/8 on board as well. He's going to force major removal. In a steel meta, like okay, green still will have your welcome, so maybe not that matchup. Steel Song, I've seen some play World's Greatest Criminal Mind, which is the scary part. But if you can cock on that their deck isn't running World's Greatest Criminal Mind, he's just a great card to play out onto the board. So yeah, definitely keep it at three. Four is fine, but I just find I'm always going to be inking so many of these towers. So three is fine for me, and it gives me a little bit more room in the deck. So yeah, that's the list that we run, and we managed to win a box from that, which was great fun. It's doing all right on Connect as well. I've managed to go 72% win rate over 80 games, I think now. So that's just been really good. Like I say, the only things I want to test out are this pile of cards here, which is a Tala and a Mufasa. I just think maybe one Mufasa in there. If you get it at the right time, that's great. Otherwise, Tipo will just put it in the inkwell. So yeah, we'll try him out. I've just talked so low about the card, but I think it's time for me to actually try it properly. Yeah, and I think Tala, because we're focusing on a right, we don't have a good alternative one or two drop, so let's just ramp to four and play a good four drop. So we're buffing off four, a turn four with this, or ink four cost with this. But yeah, the list I just ran through there, I think it's pretty good. I think it's good for the early meta right now as we figure things out. I think there's a lot to answer decks in there, and if not, you just ramp and play value of Blue Steel, and the fact that you just get to play things at a higher ink cost earlier. And that's just yeah, that's just the deck in general. So yeah, thank you for watching that.